Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. It's really very nice to begin with sitting, to sit for like this length of time, like the little moment there to stretch, and then another shorter sit. And undoubtedly there's that settling down that occurs, even if we're disturbing that somewhat or doing our best to keep mixing it up. Just taking the posture, having the time to be in one place is settling and calming to the mind, body, spirit. Be in one place with things as they are. I was noticing, it's always remarkable to me that I leave the mountain where I live a few hours away and then hurtle along in a metal box, along a road. Seems crazy, really. And then arrive here in the city, and it's different. It's different, but there's something also that's the same everywhere one goes. I was noticing with the sounds at Yokoji, at the Zen Center where I live, it's a few years now since a wildfire became very close, and there's the subtle change as time goes on. As more birds, animals start to return, the hillsides growing back. In Zazen, the sounds of, you start to hear animals or birds that sound unusual. What's that? And it's different. You come here and you hear a siren going down. I hear a siren going down Atlantic. And my mind looks at that and, what's that? So what is that, What's happened? So a little different, but yet this awareness that we are conforms, functions amidst whatever the change in forms coming and going. There's a conformity there. If we only allow ourselves to experience that openly. This time here I wanted to say a few words about this practice of just sitting. At the center where I live and how I've practiced, it's informed by the two main surviving traditions of Zen Buddhism, which is Soto and Rinzai Zen. Last week, for those that were here, we talked a little about koan study, which is a Rinzai path of inquiry, looking at principles, questions. It's a Rinzai school. But then from the Soto school, we have the practice of just sitting. In Japanese, it's called Shikantaza, which I'm told, I've never looked it up for myself, but I'm told it's a translation of that would be just sit and come into contact with mind. Just sit, contact mind. Just sitting. That word "just" is not extra in there. If we say sitting alone, then what is the content of that? What's going on? Sitting can take many different forms, but what is it to just sit? Not just as something, only this with something lacking. not in that way, rather just sitting. Another translation I read goes more to the Chinese roots of this meditation. And I like this. It says, this just sitting, being completely and only concerned with sitting, the action of sitting. A time to set aside our relentless concerns that occupy the mind, usually, when we're awake. Although when we're dreaming, often the mind's sort of occupied with, other things. So it never stops, really. There's always content, always activity. Then if we're sitting and pursuing what's going on, the activity of a day, the present challenge, whatever we're involved in, what we're hoping to do, or what's gone before, it's a mistake then to pursue that activity, to keep adding to that. Zazen, or meditation, is to return to what Master Dogen, a Soto Zen teacher, would call unconstructedness in stillness. So we sit, and for a period of time, when we come in, we sit down, bell is struck, 30 minutes, cease constructing self. The self with a small s, the self of one's, again, endless concerns. Or at least that's the way it is for me. I've always got stuff to do, stuff to think about. But sitting is or meditation is a great refuge from the relentless doing, and a return rather to the expression of being. A simple, profound expression of being without any edges, in all directions. That includes the sirens, that includes the room, that includes so-called other people. This living expression of this, what can you say? You could describe it many different ways. But it's wonderful life that we are now. Isn't it extraordinary? It's extraordinary, miraculous, magnificent, It doesn't always feel magnificent or extraordinary. It's very easily covered up or obscured by the content. As a human being, I have conditioning, conditioned by my life to this point, parents, society, people and things. But what I think or feel about something does not change the experience of the siren, whatever I add to that. There'll be times at the Zen Center we do these long retreats and come out of the Zendo or Buddha Hall after a lot of sitting and just be leaving meditation and start thinking about this and that and what's going on with so and so and what I'd like to say to this person or what I'm going to do, etc., etc. And then you walk outside and just see the night sky in the mountains, and it's like almost like a gentle slap across the face. Wow, I'm so consumed with what's going on with myself, and yet the whole world is here. And you see how, on one level, how inconsequential the rising and falling of phenomena, including thought, really is. When I was leaving today, there was a 20% chance of thunderstorms. So we're still in a little post-fire, have to be careful about flooding situation, so I took care of few things that I should do. And then I was hoping it would rain because it's so incredibly dry and dusty, and it's a common thing in California. It's like everyone's praying for rain. Well, I might want it to rain. It'd be nice if it rained, but I have absolutely no influence on whether it's going to rain or not. Life in that sense is impersonal. It is always as it is. In the first, last week and the week before, we talked a little bit about sitting, the basics, posture and breathing. The creation of a good foundation for sitting. So each time in my practice, I don't ignore those basics. So when I sit down, stretch a little, settle in, and then make the important shift to the physical, to noticing the fact of my being. Right there, making that shift to breathing, to the physical, move away from the lens of just looking, the mind, thinking about things, shifting it into the physical, and then dropping that anchor of breathing, noticing breath, whatever your particular practice is, it works in this way, to anchor us here in present awareness. And then when that is established, you see the content of mind, the present content. Perhaps there's like this kind of surface layer as you're coming in the door and wondering if you remember to lock the car, or that's me, maybe. Or whatever it is that's going on. Very important at that point there to just allow that to be as it is, unperturbed, but without adding, without pursuing thought. But also without judging oneself for thinking. Not having to get into, I'm a good meditator, I'm a bad meditator. This is a good period of meditation, this is a bad period of meditation. But rather relentlessly returning to things as they are, to sit and experience. Again, without adding, without picking something up, without pushing something away. For me, that's a discipline. It's an ongoing discipline in sitting. Some things that come up are just like juicy bones, right? You just got to chew it. You want to go off and think about this and that, plan this and that. Discipline there is to allow that and not to disturb. This is where posture really helps, keeping whatever the straight back is for you. For myself, important, I have my eyes open rather than closed. If I close my eyes completely, it's like Alice in Wonderland. So I keep my eyes open. You see what's here. Have your roots be here. Then include everything. Allowing one's awareness to open. Because often, we can, somehow we manage to pull that down, tend to narrow it. Awareness is very, very central, very here, or very here. Sitting is an opportunity to allow, and that's all that's required, to allow. Not aiming for something, not having to go toward something, not having to improve on something, but an allowing of things to be as they are, to coming back into conformity with reality. just sitting, not looking for something extra. It sounds deceptively easy or simple to just sit and do nothing extra. But usually for most of us that takes some effort. I remember my teacher saying to me, sometimes it's like putting a nail through your foot. And at the time I thought, that sounds, it's a good kind of Zen thing to say. You have a bit of edge in Zen, it's like putting but then, after some years of practice, I realized, no, sometimes it's like putting a nail through your foot. To stay here, to cut off the escape routes in the mind, to go somewhere else, to keep having a define, keep having a construct, or protect, or to build, to do something. That's the shift. Not having to construct at all, but rather to sit in what Master Dogen would call self-fulfilling Samadhi. Self-fulfilling Samadhi. A concentrated awareness that looks for nothing else. Whatever the mood is, however one is feeling, this is why it's like very valuable to have a time per day when you sit. Coming in, sitting down, and keeping a schedule, a time. That way you sit when you're feeling A, B, C, D, E. You feel into it, that's easy. But then sitting when you're not into it. Sitting when you're angry, or fearful, or confused, busy mind, quiet mind. Over and over again, sit and directly experience that. Master Tozan, another great Zen teacher and a real exemplar or founder of the Soto school, the school of just sitting, is famous for 5 ranks. And there's another set of poems in the 5 ranks, and the headings of those interesting. The first one is shift, where I've been saying something around, something about this shift from thinking over and over about what's going on, endless rising and falling of judgment and preference. There's shift to seeing things as they are without looking for something else. A shift. And then the next step, surrender. Surrender. Can be a tricky word. We don't like to surrender. We like to put up a fight, usually. But shift, and then surrender, or accept. Accept, allow. Whatever word works there. Shift to things, experiencing things as they are, and then an allowing, an accepting, or a surrender to over and over again seeing things as they are, experiencing things, experiencing what is here, without having to relentlessly run it through the filter of past experience, without having to put something else over the top. We see how we do that, each one, human being, We have these experiences, and then that shapes us going forward. This person's going to be like this. This situation's going to be like this last one. Various things that help point me with this practice of just sitting. There's an analogy or metaphor which I really like, which is from Yasutani Roshi, who was in my particular lineage, be a great-grandfather in the lineage, I think, to me. He said, when just sitting, or when practicing Shikantaza, be like a cat watching a mouse hole. And that really strikes me, you know. You really look at what that is, how a cat is in that sense. Cat watching a mouse hole. It's not straining in effort. Yeah. It's not relying on a mouse coming out. It's not all tense. You know, you see a cat in that kind of restful, attentive state, watching, aware, but relaxed. You know, notices, isn't looking for something else. It's like that when we sit, you know, you find a good posture, but then maybe you notice a little while in that your shoulders hurt a little bit, and you take a deeper breath and relax the shoulders, or straighten the back a little more. You know, you don't have to just sit, don't move, whatever. Although, you know, I've done a lot of retreats like that. Didn't win any prizes. You know, there might be a time for that sometimes. It's like that, it's like the nail through the foot. Sometimes you just got to sit. But you know, that again, like a cat with an economy of effort. But dwelling here, experiencing this, just sit, come into contact with mind. Siren is like a much better teacher than I am. Yeah. Master Dogen, again, who I brought up, who taught Shikantaza or just sitting in the Soto school. He'd finished koan study in the Rinzai tradition, but didn't feel he was satisfied, I guess. Went from Japan to China to study with a teacher there. Was there several months or a year, didn't really find anyone to study with, and considered then returning. And then he found a teacher, his teacher Tendo Nyojo, who was Soto or Kaodong school, this practice of just sitting. And he would tell his students, the people practicing at his temple, Zazen, you know, the word we use for meditation in the Zen school, Zazen, is dropping off body and mind. You just sit and drop off body and mind. Drop off concern with body and mind. Drop off identity with mind, body. And we don't sit in this way to attain something. Although, you know, realizations and certain insights may arise, may come forward. But that's not the point. The point is to be at home in one's skin. To sit in self-fulfilling samadhi. To be at home in oneself, to be at home in this experience, to be at home in this life. You know, the great refuge of meditation there. But whatever's going on, it can be faced up to. Whatever is happening, it's not, when the plans go to pieces, when it all comes crashing down. Your investment is not there. The investment isn't in the forms. It's always a shaky investment. Just sitting in Zazen, you invest in presence. If you're at home in this, that's all it is to do. That's all that's needed. To be at home in oneself now. You carry that forward, although there's nothing that gets carried forward. You don't need to carry anything forward. It is as it is. It sounds cliche, but it's so. Wherever we think or feel, however that is taken, however that's experienced or judged, it is always like this. It's always this experience. I can't tell you how many times that it struck me that, in the events of the day or what's going on, I'm stirred up over people and things. I go and sit for a period of time and let that fall off, drop that off, shift, allow, surrender, and it's okay. Things are going on, maybe difficult things, but that's okay.